So the first day of chapter 4, we're doing section 4.1. It's all about exponents. On your notes packet, the front page will end up being covered in all of the rules that we're going to learn that have to work with exponents. We're actually not going to get to those yet. So you need to flip to the back of that first page where it says 4.1 exponents. That's where we're going to start today. Everyone see where we're at? The back of that first page. All right. What does 3 to the first power mean?
3.
Just 3. Good. What's 3 to the second power mean?
9.
It's 3 multiplied however many times your exponent says. Okay, so in this case we have 3 twice. 3 times 3 would give you 9. Good. And then 3 to the third means you have 3 this many times. 3 times 3 times 3. Okay? So go ahead and write those out. It's just practicing what that means to be an exponent. This should definitely be a review. Any questions? All right. Go ahead and write this in your notes, just off to the side somewhere. Like to the right of all the 3s. This is what it means to be an exponent. So we call the big number the base and the small number the exponent. All right, now we're going to practice writing these out in exponential form. That means write it using exponents. So how would I write that using exponents? Yes, ma'am. M to the 5th. Good. So count up how many you have. You have all m's being multiplied. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. This is what's being multiplied. This is how many times. All right, here's part B. And we are writing using exponents. So how many negative 2's do I have? 2. How many 5's do I have? 3. So this would be negative 2 to the second. When it's negative, you have to keep the base in parentheses, okay? Negative 2 squared without parentheses is not the same thing as negative 2 in parentheses squared. So be very, very careful on those. How would you write this?
Ice cube.
20. Now, this does need parentheses as well. So yes, ice cubed. Get it? Yeah, and if you write it without the parentheses, that means only the E is cubed. Like it'd be I, C, E. So make sure you put the parentheses. The whole thing is being to the third power, taken to the third power. What are your questions? All right, on to example 2. It says, write an algebraic expression for the following. The square of x minus the cube of y. Yes, ma'am. Very good. So we're just changing it from words into expressions with exponents. Great. Any questions on that one? All right, part B is already in your notes. It says the square of the sum of A and B. Yes, sir.
AB squared?
Sum.
Or A squared plus B squared?
The square of the sum. So you want to take the sum first. So it'd be A plus B in parentheses. then you square it. That is absolutely not the same thing as a squared plus b squared. So be careful on that. You want to square the sum. So you have to do the sum first, then square it. Those are tricky. Let's take some practice. Questions? All right, here's part C. Yes, ma'am?
When the exponent is
So the cube of the difference of twice x and y. Yes, sir.
x plus y in parentheses,
Now it's difference. Careful.
or x minus y in parentheses squared.
We want twice x.
Or x squared minus y.
Twice means times 2. Try it one more time. You're almost there.
2x minus y in parentheses cubed.
Very good. Perfect. Once again, we want the difference first. You want to cube the difference. So you'd have to find the difference of twice x. Twice means times 2. So 2 times x, difference means minus, then the y, and then we want to take that whole quantity and cube it. Questions? All right, and here's D. The sum of the cube of twice x and the square of w. So I'm going to show you this one. It's a little different. Whoop, went too fast. There we go. So the sum of the cube. So you want to cube twice the x first. Then you want to add it to to w squared. Okay? How do we find area? Length times width. Good, and there's a place in your notes to fill that in. Area equals L times W. In this case, the length is 5y, the width is 2y. So 5y times 2y. How do I do that? Yes, sir?
Multiply 5 and 2 and 5y and 2y.
Good, so what's 5 times 2?
10.
10, and then what's y times y?
Y squared.
Very good. So 10y squared. And we're talking about some sort of units here. Usually when we do area, we do like feet squared or inches squared. So write that too, units squared. Any questions on that one? All right, I was hinting at this earlier. When something's inside parentheses and when it's not inside parentheses, that really changes the problem. So I just want to spend some time talking these things out. Okay? So when you have 4x in parentheses to the third power, everything in the parentheses is being taken to the third power. So that's the same thing as 4x times 4x times 4x. Any questions on that? That is not the same as 4x to the third without the parentheses. Without the parentheses, the only thing that's being taken to the third power is the x part. So that's 4 times x times x times x. Bless you. Any questions on the difference here? The cool thing is, it's not so much with the variables because we don't put those in the calculator, but when you're working with just numbers, especially with negative signs, the calculator knows when the parentheses are important and when they aren't. So if you're ever stuck, you can check yourself.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, here's some more this is one where the calculator would really come in handy. So it's negative 2 to the fourth without parentheses, negative 2 to the fourth with parentheses. So without parentheses, the negative is not to the fourth power. So that's negative that you deal with in the end, okay? The thing you deal with first is the fourth power. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, then you make it negative. That is different than when you have parentheses, because when you have parentheses, the negative is also being taken to the fourth power. So you have negative times negative times negative times negative. Do you guys see the difference? Yeah, so if we went through and actually evaluated these, this is just regular 2, regular 2, regular 2, regular 2. Then you make the overall answer negative. Down here, though, a negative times a negative would turn into a positive. And then again in the back. So here the overall answer would be positive. Here the overall answer would be negative. Questions? All right, here's 2 other ones that people get confused a lot. 1 plus 3 to the second, how that's different than 1 plus 3 in parentheses to the second. All right, so up top, what is being taken to the second power?
3.
The 3. So this is actually just 1 plus 3 times 3. The 3 is to the second power. The 1 is not. That's different than at the bottom. On the bottom, you can actually add what's in parentheses, right? 1 plus 3 is 4, and then the 4 is being taken to the second power. So do you guys see the difference on these ones?
Yep.
These are the very common mistakes that we see when we're working with exponents. And a lot of it just goes back to order of operations. So example 4, part 1 is 5 times 3 to the third power. All right, how would I write this out?
5 times 27.
Okay, so 5 times 27. Even one step before that, it would be 3 times 3 times 3. So yes, that would be 27. And then 27 times 5, or 5 times 27 is 135. All right, here's part B. All right, how would I do this one?
2 plus 4 times 4.
Yeah, it's 2 plus, and then 4 squared is 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16,
Yep.
and then 2 plus 16 is 18. Good. Ooh, careful. Yes, ma'am. So yeah, the negative is not being taken to the second power. If it was, it'd be in parentheses. So this is negative 6 squared. 6 squared is 6 times 6. Then we make it negative. The answer is negative 36. If the parentheses had been there and the negative was on the inside, then it would have been positive 36. All right. So we have 2 to the 5th minus 2 to the 2nd. 2 to the 5th is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2, which is 8, times 2, which is 16, times 2 again, which is 32. That's one you might want to write out. And then the negative, it's a minus here. It's not in parentheses, so leave it alone. And then in the back, 2 times 2 is 4. All right, what's 32 minus 4? Yes?
28.
Very good. Questions? All right, here's part E. 7 minus 3 in parentheses squared. Yes, ma'am. So we do 7 minus 3. No, so we do order of operations as to do parentheses, then do exponents. So on this one, we need to actually do the subtraction first and then square that number. Yes, and just, yeah, what you did, you can't, if you were going to write it out, I would not recommend doing it this way, but if you were going to actually square the whole quantity, you'd have to write it out twice. You can't just square the 7 and square the 9. But I would not recommend doing it that way, especially if they're like terms inside parentheses. Just go ahead and do the math. That's 4, square the 4, you get 16. Questions? Well,
Oh.
all right, how should we start this?
3 times 3.
Yeah, let's simplify what we can inside any parentheses. So I'm going to do the exponents that I can. It looks like they're all separated enough that you can start tackling them all at the same time. In these parentheses, you have to do the exponent first. In these parentheses, you also have to do the exponents first. And then I went ahead and just did all the exponents since they're not really impacting one another. So you could really just do exponents left to right here. So 3 squared is 9. Inside the parentheses, 2 squared is 4. Keep the minus 1. Another minus. 5 times 5 is 25. 3 times 3 is 9. Negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. Any questions on all those exponents? All right, keep going inside your parentheses. So we'll do 4 minus 1 and 25 minus 9. That gives me 3 in the first set of parentheses, 16 in the second. And then we have to do multiplication and division from left to right. So up here, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Can't do the subtraction yet, so keep the minus sign. 16 divided by negative 8 is negative 2. And then what's minus a negative? It's like a plus. So this is like 3 plus 2, which is 5. Any questions? All right, here's example 5. So now we're going to practice substituting with exponents. The key is whatever you're plugging in, keep it inside parentheses until you know what to do with it. So we're going to take the m out. We're going to put a -2 in. Again, put parentheses around whatever you're plugging in until you know whether you need them or not. Here the parentheses change the entire problem, okay? Because what I'm actually taking to the third power is the -2. So this is -2 times -2 times -2. Still have the 4 out front. All right, go ahead and focus on those 2's. -2 times -2 is +4, times another -2 is -8. And then you multiply it by the 4 in the front, good, and you get -32. All right, here's example 6. All right, what should I do? Yes, ma'am. Yep, we're going to substitute in those values for the variables. Now, typically when I write it, I would keep them in parentheses. So I'd have parentheses here and parentheses here. All right, now a lot of people's eyes will be drawn to this exponent. You can't do anything with this exponent until you have everything taken care of inside of here. So we're going to do this multiplication and this multiplication next. So 3 times 2 is 6. It was plus, but you end up with a -8 when you do 2 times -4. And plus -8 is -8. Then what? Yes. Good. It'd be -2 in parentheses to the second power, and -2 times -2 is +4. We are evaluating if A equals -3 and B equals 4. So A times B minus A squared. Plug it all in. Parentheses are right there for you. Perfect. Now, you will see every year somebody is like, oh, minus a negative. You can't touch this negative right now because it has an exponent with it. It's like guarded right now from having anything to do with this minus sign. You got to take care of it with the exponent first. What is -3 times -3? What? +9. But it was a minus, okay? So you can't go, oh, minus a negative, it's going to be a +9. You can't do that, okay? Because this is actually like having 2 negatives because it's being squared. And then, of course, up front, -3 times 4 is -12. All right, these are both negatives, so we're going to go ahead and add them and keep the negative sign. We get -21. Questions? All right, what did we learn today? Exponents. Great, and you can finish the summary while I hand out the homework.